It's a lot better now. Welcome back to Freeman's Garage. We're bringing the 1967 Chevy C10 in, and we're gonna put the hood back on it. And then there's three, why is it so hard do you have a hard time bending your pinky down like that? There's three other things that we need to do to it to make it a daily driver. Now this awesome 67 C10 has been a daily driver in the past for me for years actually. But after we did that swap meet engine swap video series here on Freeman's Garage, we're left with a few loose ends that need to be tied up. As soon as we get this hood moved out of the way, we'll fire up the straight 6 in our C10 and drive it in here and get to work. First thing we got to do is get our test drive oil out of the engine and put fresh oil in and install a brand new filter, which is a larger than stock filter, so that we can increase our oil capacity a little bit, hopefully run some lower oil temperatures. And we need to drain the cooling system because it's just straight water in there right now. I'm a cheap wad, but yes, I actually did purchase some of the expensive green stuff, so we'll add some of that in. You know, we don't want a cracked block again, which is the reason why we ended up having to do an engine swap with our C10 all together, right? And then we are going to hook a vacuum gauge up to our engine, and we are going to tune it with that vacuum gauge and get everything running like a top. And then we need to hook up the factory choke cable, because you know, a guy is sick and tired of having to take his air cleaner off in the Walmart parking lot every time he's just trying to drive home, right? You know, if you can work the choke and the throttle from inside the cab, you know, your life is just so much easier. We got lucky that our swap meet engine runs, but she's running a little bit rough. That's what we're gonna tune out of it here today. Nothing we can't handle here at Freeman's Garage. The impossible is possible. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. Let's shut this straight 6 down before it gets up to operating temperature and we're not able to take the cap off our radiator here. We need to get all the fluids draining, the oil and the water. Oh, I guess we need to add something else onto the list. We need to swap in a working sensor for the water temp idiot light. You might want to know when we're getting hot out there, you know, pulling those big goosenecks up the Rocky Mountains, you know. There's a new motto here at Freeman's Garage: less talky, more worky. That's probably not going to last long. You know what song just started playing in my head? Ziggy played guitar. I don't think we're going to get a ton of oil out of here. It's not full. We had done the test drive a little low on oil. We were in the safe range though. I'm going to jack up the back of the truck with the floor jack, at least a foot or so high, and try to get as much oil as possible to come out of that oil pan. The pans on these engines drain well, but I just want to make sure we get it all out. And of course, the floor jack is stuck back here. It's not a perfect world. But hey, it's a small price to pay to have cool stuff, right? That's working like a charm. We're getting a lot more oil out. The truck was kind of angled down in the back a little bit too, because half of it's out in the driveway and it's a little bit of a slope. We're just waiting a few minutes for the oil pan to completely drain, and then we'll put the plug back in and slide the oil pan over underneath the oil filter. It's taking a few extra minutes to do it this way, but I've kind of got an oil pan shortage at Freeman's garage right now. All the oil pans are currently on duty. Lots of things leak oil around here. Well, everything leaks oil around here. In fact, our swap meet engine might leak oil. When I was down there taking the plug out, I noticed it was a little bit wet on the oil pan, towards the back of the oil pan. So we will investigate that. Hopefully that's not a rear main. Hopefully all we need to do is just tighten the oil pan bolts up a little bit, or maybe the oil is leaking from the back of the valve cover, or it could just be some spilt stuff from the fiasco during the engine swap series. I just hope we don't have a driveway destroyer. It'd be really nice if we don't. Everything is going well so far. I think we can get rid of this cardboard since we don't have the FORD battery in here anymore. After you're done watching this video, down in the video description, link for the full engine swap series will be there if you haven't seen it yet. And then you can figure out, you'll know what I almost said it, the FORD battery in this Chevy was all about. I love Chevy and Ford. I love them all. Actually, I'm going to throw this piece of cardboard under the truck because you know when we take that oil filter off, we're going to spill. It's inevitable. Whoa, that was a big word. And I said it properly, I think, didn't I? Inevitable? Inevitable? This is a perfect opportunity to do another one of these. Can I remove this oil filter with my bare hands? There's a huge debate about it. Millions think you can, millions think you can't, millions think, it all depends. This oil filter has been on this engine for less than 50 miles. My hands aren't the cleanest, but they're also not the dirtiest. A little bit greasy. Oh, I think my elbow just ripped apart. Come on, Fram, sure grip. No, it's not coming. Filter wrench required on this one. I'm putting this tie-dye t-shirt down here just because I'm trying to keep the cross member down here from filling up with oil that we're just gonna have to clean out. Alright, we're all clean down here. The engine block is ready to accept the brand new oil filter, which I'm going to show you right now. The filter we took off and this one here, the brand new one that we're putting on, they are both units that were made in the United States of America, which is exactly what we want. Note the size of this one, and then note the size of this one. You can get, in the orange can, you can get one this size that will fit right on this engine. But in this situation, I chose to go with this one and in this size. So we'll be able to put a little bit more oil in. The book for this engine calls for 5 quarts. So we'll start with that and then we'll see how much extra oil we can squeeze in. The more oil we have, the better our cooling should be for our oil. Which means lower oil temps, right? Well, we'll never know for sure really what's going on, but you know, makes you feel good. We're gonna run 1540 heavy duty diesel oil in our swap meet engine here. Our Chevrolet 250 cubic inch straight 6. Get a little dab of clean oil. Put that on there like that. Put the cap on. Now let's probably put it on. Put the cap on and move this so that we don't knock it over. Set the filter in the box. And then we'll put a little bit, just a little bit of oil inside of it. I'm trying to do this so you can see what I'm doing here. Just so that we don't start the thing completely dry. Some people think that's ridiculous. Some people don't. And that's all we're going to put in there because we got to turn the filter sideways to screw it onto the block. But, you know, whatever makes you sleep better at night, right? Alright, the oil jug is out of the way with the cap on so we don't tip it over in here and dump all that money out on the ground, huh? Here's another debate. People can't seem to agree on how you should put an oil filter on, how you should install it. Some say you have to tighten it with a wrench, some say you have to tighten it by hand, blah 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 blah, it's whatever you want to do. Here's what I do. Okay, so I put this on with my hands, okay, and now it's not going any further. I'm not trying very hard here. I'm just very gently just turned it on. I mean, I snugged it a little bit, right? But now at this point, I'm going to turn it by hand. I'm going to, you know, half to 3/4 of the way around, if it can. See, that didn't even make it another quarter. Oh, I made it about a quarter. But it doesn't want to go any further. And that's as far as it wants to go by hand. With all me strength. Put the old one in the box here so it doesn't tip over. Alright, let's get our heavy duty diesel oil into our Chevy 250 straight 6. Yes, it's a funnel, okay? I'm not a girl, okay? I'm just Trying to keep the swap meet engine a little bit clean, all right? Forgive me for having some class. We're gonna start by just dumping a gallon in here. Last time I checked, a gallon's 4 quarts. And we need a total of 5 plus a little bit for that larger filter, so we'll start with this. And because of that potential oil leak that we were talking about earlier, and I found that oil at the bottom of the engine, I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to make sure that it's not leaking out from around this valve cover. No, I don't think that oil is coming from the valve cover. Well, I'll tell you that it's not, because I'm 100% sure right now about that. It's not wet back there at all. So hopefully it's not the rear main seal. Hopefully we're going to be able to just tighten up the oil pan bolts from underneath, and that's all it needs. Hopefully. But since I'm up here, might as well pour from here, huh? That was almost a disaster. We put the plug back in the oil pan, didn't we? Right? Well, the floor is dry, so I guess we did. Don't forget to put the plug in the boat. Now the factory book calls for 10W30 in this engine for your standard everyday use in normal conditions. But you know, when you're 57, 58, 59, 60 years old and you're weathered, you've got anywhere between 100,000 to 1,000,000 miles, possibly a few rebuilds on you. Who knows? It's a big mystery. You wound up at a swap meet, you got passed around from garage to garage. Nothing wrong with going a little thick on the oil there, you know. Make up for those extra large clearances. Let's not be a dipstick and check our dipstick after putting those 4 quarts in, just because, you know, you don't want to be the guy that some way, somehow, even though you knew it was impossible, somehow you overfill your engine and then you're draining oil out of it. Don't be that guy. See, right now we are just below the full mark, assuming that this is the correct dipstick. It looks like it is. Can you see that? It kind of drained. It kind of slid that way a little bit when I tipped it, but it was just below the full mark. So let's fire this beast up and let the oil circulate for a little bit, and then we'll shut it off and let it all settle back down, and we'll recheck it, and I'm sure it'll come out lower on the dipstick, and then we will add another quart or so, and piece of cake. Oil change done. Step 1 to being able to be driven on the road daily. And then we got to do the coolant. Oh, and did I mention to you yet that after we're done doing our 4 things, or it's turning into 5 or 5.5 now, I think, after we're done doing all these things, we gotta go test on this, right? We gotta go put some miles on this truck. And I'm not talking a couple miles in the dark where we couldn't see anything like the last time that we drove this truck on that test drive. I'm talking a good, proper stretch the legs kind of a run. Not a road trip, a jaunt. But less talky, more worky, or we're never even going to get to that point. I forgot I disconnected the battery to make room for my arm when we changed the oil filter. That's embarrassing. Oh, that's why we're tuning on this. Why in the world do you want to be choked right now? It's 5 million degrees out here. It's Texas. This is why we're hooking the choke cable up, because I can do all this from in the cab. Okay. You are just being silly. Silly goose. Half choke. All right. What are we doing, guy? I don't understand. Here, let's choke you all the way. Stranglehold, Ted Nugent. Wow, it really wanted to be choked that much. I guess. Don't worry, she'll be running a lot smoother by the end of this video. Alright, ran her for a minute or so. Now let's let all that oil drain back down. And while that's draining down, let's open that drain on the radiator, let some water out, and we'll get some coolant in. And that scared me for a second. I thought that we were leaking oil, but there was a drop that dripped off the dipstick when I had taken it out, and that must be where it went. Scared me. It's just water in here, so I'm gonna crack the drain and I'm just gonna let it hit the floor, and it'll work its way out the door. As long as it doesn't go sideways and touch my sheetrock, we're fine. Once it gets outside, it's so hot. I'm talking hotter than Billy Goat's butt in a pepper patch. There's one for you. It's just, it'll just evaporate immediately. As long as I don't see any green coming out of here, we're fine. You can buy coolant / antifreeze diluted with water 50-50 or straight concentrate. We're going to put 2 gallons of straight concentrate into our cooling system. As soon as this drains a little bit more, just doing it slowly, I don't want the water making its way over to my wall. But while we're waiting on that, I will share with you why I have decided that we are putting 2 gallons of coolant into the cooling system. If you have your 1967 Series 10 through 30 Chevrolet truck owner's and driver's manual handy, feel free to turn to page 56 and follow along. Page 56 is the cooling system page. Now we need to figure out what is our cooling capacity. That's going to be our water jackets and our radiator, our total capacity of our water / coolant / antifreeze mixture. Once we know the capacity, then we can split it in half. Or if you know how to do math, you would division it by 2 if you want to do a 50-50 coolant water mixture, which is what we're doing. So here's the capacity in quarts, and there's our US measurement. So that's our actual quarts, and then that's imperial. Now we got to find out which one of these is us. Well, there's all these different engines, all these different transmissions, and then all these different series. P, S, E, C, K, what the heck does all that stuff mean? Let's start at the beginning. Let's find out what series we are. Well, P is for forward control chassis. You could go very deep and get very granular on GM forward control chassis. We're not going to do that right now. But the most common application that they would be put underneath, you could just think of a step van of some type for milk delivery, a vending machine firm, a florist, department stores, you know, a big van doing deliveries. Just think of that. So that is a forward control 6-cylinder half-ton. And the second line down, let's move to that, CS10, 20, and 30. C is for conventional, which means 2-wheel drive. And S is for the 6-cylinder and 10's for half-ton. So that's us. That's conventional 6-cylinder half-ton. Now, do we have synchro mesh or power glide? We have a synchro mesh, so that's us. And do we have the, which 6-cylinder do we have? The 230, the 250, or the 292? We have the 250. So once again, that's us. So 13.5 quarts. But, hold your horses. Down here, it says, oh, you might need to add a quart to a quart and a half if you got a heavy duty radiator, man. Well, this ain't the stock little tiny radiator that this truck came with. This is a larger radiator that can handle a V8. Okay, it's a modern aftermarket one. I know I'm a little bit of a purist, but I can't live a puritanical lifestyle, okay? I had to get a radiator in it, and this is what we got, and it cools great. So this is bigger than stock. So let's take that 13.5 So because we don't need to get into semantics and we don't have to have a perfect 50-50 coolant water mix, let's take that 13.5 and we'll call it 14 for us. So we got a capacity of 14 quarts, and coolant is sold in gallon jugs, and there's 4 quarts in a gallon. So if we take our capacity 14 and then divide that by 4, we get 3.5. So that's 3.5 gallons is our capacity. And we want to run 50-50, half water, half coolant. So let's take our 3.5 gallons and divide that by 2. That comes out to 1.75. So 1.75 gallons of water, 1.75 gallons of coolant. But let's just round up and just call it 2. Just to make simple math even easier. And we just dump 2 jugs in. You know, we don't need to make sure we do 1.75 gallon jugs, right? So now that we're drained, we drained a bunch of water out. It doesn't matter how much we drained out, we just drained a bunch out. And now, let's just dump 2 gallons of coolant in it, and then we'll just top it off with water, and we're good to go. If you pass the 5th grade, you're probably laughing at the way I did that. I'm sure there's a much faster and simpler way to do that math. But you know what? I don't know. I'm a loser. I'll show you one more cool thing in here real quick. So P's for forward control, S is for 6-cylinder, C is for conventional, which means 2-wheel drive, K means 4-wheel drive, 10 means half ton, 20 means 3/4 ton, 30 means 1 ton. Check this out. So everywhere you see an S, you'll notice it's all the 6 cylinders. You won't see an E in the 6 cylinders. And you won't see an S down in the V8s. It's all E's. Look at that one. 4-wheel drive, 3/4 ton with the manual and a 283 V8. 19.5 quart capacity. Heavy duty radiator. And then look. Conventional V8 half ton. So that would be this truck with a V8. You could have got a 327. Let's put some coolant in this thing. And then let's check that oil. That water we drained didn't even make it 10 feet out the door before it evaporated. Any Brads? Any Brads watching right now? Come on, Brad. Let us know you're out there in the comments. I got fired by a... Wait, no, I didn't get fired by a Brad once. I quit on a Brad once. We'll do the old poke the little vent trick. Hey, I got an idea. Let's close the drain on the radiator before we start pouring this expensive water into it. I'd be totally fired right now. It's Mountain Dew. Why does that sound like that's leaking? Oh, maybe it's going out the overflow. I'll try to angle it away from the overflow. What is going on? Why is it all going through the overflow? Stop it. Oh, this funnel is so much better. Now we're not shooting it out the overflow. Gallon number 2 going in. You know what I need to do? I need to schedule a time for myself to just sit in a chair next to the record player and listen to the Pet Sounds album in its entirety. Alright, we'll let that settle down and find its own level here. It'll go down a little bit. We'll be able to add some more, and when we fire the engine up here shortly, we'll also add more coolant in as we can as the thermostat opens and things circulate. Let's check our oil now. Where are we at? Oh yeah, we are below full now. So let's go ahead now and add the rest of our oil. Seriously though, when was the last time you listened to Sloop John B? Feel so broke up, I wanna go home. Alright, we're putting a quart. Oh no. Hate wasting oil. Okay, we got just about a quart in here. There we go. We want precision here. Alright, we are good on our oil. Everything worked out perfectly. Now, let's fire this thing up, get this coolant circulating, get this thermostat to open so we can top it off. I'm anxious to go for a drive. I want to cruise. Well, that's interesting. Remember our math? We came out with 1.75 gallons of water, 1.75 gallons of coolant. We just rounded it up and called it 2 and 2. Well, we can't fit any more coolant into that radiator right now unless it goes down after it circulates. And what's interesting is this jug's about a quarter full. So we just put 1.75 gallons of coolant in. Interesting. Boy, this thing really does need to be tuned up. This is incredible. Thermostat open. Let's start tuning, and the first thing we're going to do is throw the timing gun on and verify where the timing is. I unplugged the vacuum advance and then plugged it. If the timing is at 4 degrees, which is per the manual for initial timing, if that's where it is right now, which is where we left it when we finished the engine swap series, so it should be there. If that's where it is at 4 degrees, if you were to not unplug that vacuum advance line, pull it off the canister and then plug it, if you didn't do that and you check the timing, it would probably be at 10 degrees and you'd be all way off on everything you're trying to do. second so I can talk to you. Plus, I don't want it to idle in here any more longer than it has to, because with the air temperature and then sitting, ooh, nice crack. Need to work on that. It's just, a radiator is really only as good as the air flowing through it, right? So, pretty much, kind of, sort of. So if we're just sitting here, this thing's gonna overheat. Alright, here's what we're going to do to make this engine run smooth as baby's new butt. Our points distributor here, this is the one that came from our original engine, the one that the block cracked on that we pulled out of this truck. We're going to pull the distributor cap off and verify that the points gap is set at 16 thousandths. I set in this truck with a 250, what I do is I set brand new points at 19 thousandths, and I set used points at 16 thousandths. So we're going to verify that the points gap is at 16 thousandths, and then we're going to fire the engine back up, and we're going to take that 4 degrees initial timing, and we're going to bump that up a little bit, maybe up to 10. And then after that, we will do idle screw adjustment if we need to. And if things aren't, going the way we want them to, then we use the vacuum gauge. Worst case scenario, we run into town and buy 6 spark plugs at $3.49 a piece, not including tax. Pulling the rotor off so that I can see what we're doing here. Oh, sweet. We're sitting right on top of a lobe here. I hooked our remote starter switch up, and we don't even need it. We're ready to check the gap. We're sitting right on top of a lobe. So now we can check, if I can get my finger in there, check our little gap. See that gap there? We're going to check that with the feeler gauge. Made in USA, 16 thousandths. Boy, well, it's a little too tight, I'd say. Need to widen that gap up. A little loose. Oh, that's just right. Perfect. Let's not forget to put the rotor on. There we go. Throw our cap back on. Tighten it down. Make sure our plug wires are all on good. Keep hoping that we don't have to go spend money on spark plugs. No, if we do, we do. It's par for the course. It's the nature of the beast. It's, I don't know, what's another one? Let's fire it up and see if anything has changed. You never know, we might leave it at 4 degrees initial. I doubt it. I never do with these things. With today's fuels, you can get away with more timing in these things. But let's real quick cut that zip tie, because this wire, these wires right here, it's possible that the spark plug wires could be arcing to them, and that was just testing purpose stuff during the swap meet series. So let's snip that and then get this bundle up on top where it's supposed to go, right here, and keep it away from our plug wires. We're going to need a 3/8 for this valve cover bolt as well. Snip, snip, snip. I'm going to need to get a socket and a ratchet. I don't know, I was thinking I can't. With our little clip on here, I can't tighten it with the wrench. I do better. I just have to crawl out and back in one more time, that's fine. Okay, we'll put that in there. Like that. And then, what else could we do while we're over here? Oh, this is our wire that goes to our water temp sensor on the cylinder head. This is for our idiot light on the dashboard. We'll have to run that around the valve cover here. Ooh, which reminds me, we need to pull the water temp sensor out of our old block, or out of our old cylinder head on our old engine, and swap it into this one. Forgot all about that. That'll be fun. There's a blue wire down there. Yeah, it's somehow must have got broken during the engine swap. That goes to our sensor for idiot light for our oil pressure. We'll have to fix that. Alright, let's fire this up and see if anything's different. Oh yeah, I did it again. The battery's disconnected. Disconnected it when I was sticking the screwdriver in the distributor. Sometimes I wonder about myself. Oh yeah. Alright, here we go. Okay, there is power. We gotta put an end to this hard start. What is with this hard starting? See, now, if you could, once we get the choke cable hooked up, you can sit here in the cab and manage all this instead of having to get out every time. I feel like I've explained that to you 5 or 10 times. If I repeat myself and it gets on your nerves, put that in the comments so I know not to do it again. She likes it pretty much all the way. If your old engine wants to be choked, that means it wants less air, right? So it's begging for a richer mixture. Don't be afraid to give it to it. Seems a little bit better to me. That's an exhaust leak right there. Let's put a little timing in it now and see if it'll run a little bit smoother. And then once we've reached that point, if we need to back the idle screw down a little bit, we can do that. I'm going to loosen the distributor hold down bolt so that I can turn the distributor to put the timing in it. counterclockwise to, where's my leads, man? Counterclockwise to advance the timing. Where's all my, I got a mess going on here. There we go. What a mess. What happened here? I'm all tangled up. So I'm turning clockwise to retard the timing. Setting the timing at 12 degrees advance. That's where it seems to be best. Now let's plug the vacuum advance line back up and then turn on the carburetor a little bit. Danger! So all we got to do to use this vacuum gauge to try to get our smoothest idle we can is plug this into manifold vacuum. We don't want ported vacuum, we want manifold vacuum. So we want to be before the carburetor and we want to be on the intake manifold. So we are going to do that right here. That's where we're going to plug it in. Now I prefer to do this on these trucks with the hood on because I like to hang the vacuum gauge on the inside of the hood. But we don't have that luxury today, so I'll just set it somewhere. I gotta hop up in here, make this easier. So our idle mixture screw, which is right here on this carburetor, I'm going to turn it in all the way till it bottoms out. Not hard though, I don't want to damage the seat on the screw. Okay, so it's bottomed out, and I'm going to turn it about 2 turns out, so that's a half, that's 1 and a half. Okay, that's 2 turns. I grabbed the longer screwdriver, that should help. So I'm going to start the engine, and then I'm going to climb up in here with this long screwdriver, or hang over the side here, and I'm going to turn that idle mixture screw and try to get the highest vacuum that I can get on this gauge, and I'll adjust the idle screw on the other side of the carburetor if needed. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if it starts easier with all that timing in it. Oh yeah. I just threw a breather cap on to hold the vacuum gauge from falling off the valve cover. Powwow time. It's not pulling bad for vacuum. It's not terrible, but I gotta be honest with you. This engine's running like, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I'll be vulgar. It's running like dog crap. It's not running very good. It's hard to tell right now, but I think that this engine might be a little bit of an oil burner. I mean, you basically seen blow-by coming out of the valve cover, I'm sure. Which is probably why the air cleaner setup that whoever had on this engine was kind of routing that back into the air cleaner to go down the carburetor and, you know, get burnt and go at the tailpipe as exhaust, which is fine. You know, I have no issue with it being a bit of an oil burner. I mean, if it's gonna burn, you know, in future videos we'll find all this out, but if it's gonna burn, you know, a quart of oil a month or something, I could care less. It's perfectly fine with me. But if we're burning, I mean, if we're putting a quart of oil in every other day, that's not going to be cool, right? So if it does burn some oil, I have no issue with just routing it through the air cleaner and making it, you know, disappear, pretending that it's not there, because the engine can last for years like that. I've done it many times. But, you know, we gotta fix that permanently. It's embarrassing at the thrift store. But yeah, I think, you know, our points are good. Okay, our points gap is good. There can't be anything wrong with 12 degrees for timing. I know that carburetor is good. It tuned okay with the vacuum gauge. Seemed normal. I think we need to get these pile of garbage spark plugs out of this thing. That's what we need to do. We need to go to the parts store and we'll just get what's in there. Autolite 25s. It's gonna cost about 20, 21 bucks. I think we should do that. All right, we got some brand new spark plugs. Let's go ahead and pull our old spark plugs out. We'll gap our brand new ones. We'll talk about the gap which we're gonna go with when we get to that point. And we will find out if this Chevy 250 is gonna run a little bit better for us. You know, I'm at the point now where I'm old enough to where I can refer to some people as young. And a young man went into the back to retrieve these spark plugs. His name is Shiloh. He drives a Honda. But I have confidence and faith in today's youth. So I didn't verify that these are the correct plugs, and I didn't verify that I got 6 of them. There might not be 4 in here. We'll find out when we open it up. I trust Shiloh. All right, time to set our spark plug gap. We're going to use a feeler gauge to do it. This should be an Autolite 25, as the box says. Yay, Shiloh, you're doing good. Doing good, bud. We're going to gap our plugs at 35 thousandths. That's what I like to gap them at for a points ignition system. If we were running HEI on here, I would gap them at 45 thousandths. This is my points and spark plug toolkit. This was passed down to me. It only goes up to 1964. And under General Motors products, it even lists 35 thousandths for spark plug gap. Let's grab our first plug here. Shiloh, come on. This better be an Autolite 25, like the box says. I believe in you, Shiloh. It is. Alright, so 35 thousandths. I want the feeler gauge to move freely between the electrodes, but with a slight drag. It's too loose. Let's tighten this up a little bit. Close the gap. A little bit more. A little too far. Too far. Going back. I don't know about you, but that sure meets my definition of a light drag. Perfect. Alright, that's 2 spark plugs down. Let's make sure these are... We got 4 A25s in here. What do we do? Oh, that's what the boxes say. Okay, looking good. Awesome. Alright, let's gap these real quick and throw them in. Fire this engine up. Better, I think. I don't know, but I'm going to let it warm up for a minute and then I'm going to put the vacuum gauge back on it again. Okie dokie, she's warmed up. I shut her down because if we were to pull this off while the engine's running, it would die. So we'll plug this in here now. You know what? Check this out. There we go. That's a nice little spot there. That's not going anywhere. We'll bottom out our mixture screw again. Okay, we'll go back half, 1, 1.5, 2. Scooby-Doo. We got everything just right. We could take this truck out on the road and drive it right now, just like we did in the last and final video in the engine swap series. But it's rough. It's idling rough. It's rough going up through the RPMs until you get up to a certain point. Either our distributor is not in as good of shape as we think it is. Maybe it's a little worn out and our timing's kind of jumping around a little bit. Or we've got a vacuum leak of sorts. So let's do a little old school vacuum leak test here. And we'll see if we can find a leak at our intake manifold or at the base of the carburetor. So let's start it up again and begin our test. Before we start our spray test, can you hear how rough that's running? Right? It's idling at about where it should be for idle, but it's so rough. If we bring up the RPMs, it smooths out, right? But that's way too high for an idle. See, and then we're back to rough. I think we got a vacuum leak. Let's go figure it out. Already found it. Listen for the change. Did you hear that? No change there. Hopefully this is all we need. Oh yeah, see that's loose. Let's start at the center. Alright, I need my ratcheting wrench. Actually, we'll use my new extended length wrench. Oh, these are loose as can be. You know, with how loose all these bolts are, makes me wonder, what have we been doing? How could we let this happen? If this engine idles perfectly after tightening these manifold bolts up, naturally what I'm going to start thinking is, gosh darn it, I probably could have gotten away with the junk garbage plugs that were in here and saved 20 bucks, even though having the new plugs is better anyways. I'll still think, man, I could have saved that money. Yeah, I wonder if you go back and watch whatever video it was in the engine swap series where we bolted this manifold onto this engine. I wonder if you went back and looked if we installed it using a ratchet about that long. Maybe that's why we didn't even get these things tight. Check your manifold bolts, kids. If we do need a better gasket, we can just rob the one off of our old engine that we took out of this truck, because that combination gasket, it's called a combination gasket for the manifolds on these engines, because the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold, they share the same gasket. It's just one piece. And we put a brand new one on our original engine not all that long ago, when we did our DIY at home on a budget ring job, when we hung the cylinders with the crankshaft in and put new piston rings in. I think we put a new combination gasket on, if I remember right. Alright, my friend, it is time to find out if that was it, or if we need to dig into the parts bins and pull out another distributor, and then we do a whole bunch of stuff all over again. Which, you know, it's fun either way, but the truth is, I'd rather be driving than wrenching. I want to know what love is. Gotta be honest, this part's getting a little old. I don't know why. Why do you want to be choked when it's 150 degrees? Another leak. Watch this. Listen. Base of the carburetor. It's a lot better now. It's still not quite as smooth as it could be. You know what I mean? It could be a smidgen better. Kind of seems to be a little teeny bit off still. Might just be playing tricks on herself, but it's not a Cadillac. It's a truck. Could be the worn out motor mounts, you know, who knows, and the worn out transmission mounts. So I think that we're at a point where we stop being babies and we wrap up the rest of the stuff on our list and we go hit the super slab. Well, maybe not the super slab, but we'll hit a slab all right. Give your all. Well, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, you probably think I'm crazy right now. Uh-oh. Something just let go.